In this video, we're going to look at regular expressions. Some of the patterns we're going to be looking at is using just text, using any character, which is the dot, using anchors, which is the up caret and the dollar sign, bracket expressions using square brackets, negation with bracket expressions. We're looking at alteration using the pipe, matching an element 0 more times using a question mark, matching an element 1 or more times using a plus sign, and matching an element n number of times, which is using the curly brackets and some sort of number. I am logged into the CityMill server, and you can see that I'm in my playground, and I create a folder named regular expressions, and so I'm inside that folder. And inside of there, I have a few files that basically I took out of the book example. They're just some files that have some text in that are going to help us use these regular expressions to kind of see how we can find certain words. We'll be using grep a lot with this because we're looking for specific lines of text within files, but you can use regular expressions with the find command as well to actually find files themselves. But we'll be working grep on this example, or for these examples. In this example, we have where we're looking for bzip. So we're just looking for the text itself. And we're going to be looking for it in any of the dir list files. And you can see that you can't really see the file names too well on my Pacific monitor, but you can see where I looked up anything that had the word bzip in it. So that worked out really well. And this is nothing new. We've kind of been using this all along. Of course, if I go in here and I use the -h, that will get rid of the files and will just show me the text itself. Okay, so we'll just kind of do some of our examples like that. Now, the next one we're going to be doing is using the any character. So if I do something like this again, only I do dot, so I do dot zip, and I do something like this. Now what I do is I'm going to get the zip, but I'm going to get one character in front of it. And if there isn't a character in front of it, it's not going to show up. And if I do two of them, so say I do 2 dots, okay, the dot basically represents any one character. So if I do 2 like this, then I end up getting 2 characters in front of zip, just like that. Okay, so that's the using any character. That's what they call it, using any character. Now let's go ahead and clear the screen. And we're going to take a look at using anchors. So I'm going to have a similar one here, only I'm going to change this part right here. So instead of having that, I'm going to end up having in quotes and do an up caret and zip, and then the dollar sign and that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. And you can see that that brought in 2 with just the word zip. And so by using anchors, what I'm basically saying here, it must start with the word zip, and it must end with the word zip. Or basically, it must start with the Z, must end with this B, and must contain IP. So that's what we're basically doing. If I change this, and I take that dollar sign out of it, for example, then you can see they all start with the word zip. See that? And then, of course, if I do the dollar sign, right here, and I take out the caret, now you can see they all end with zip. Or in this particular case, it started with nothing, but it ended with zip. So they all work. Okay, so that's using anchors. Basically, you have the up caret, which is the beginning, and then you have the dollar sign, which is the end. So we'll go ahead and clear the screen. This example here is known as bracketing. And so you can see right here that I have this BG zip. And because I have these square brackets here, what that means is it's going to start with either a B or a G and then zip. So if we take a look at this, you can see I have BZip, BZip, GZip, BZip. So basically it looks for, hey, has to start with either this or this, and then have the letter zip. So that's kind of what that one's doing. But we're not stuck with that. So we can do something like this. We'll go A, G. So that's going to be looking for capital letters A through G. And we got 2 of them right here. All right, so it just depends on how we want to set this up. Let's try one more. We'll do M, A through M. And there we got a few more. Now, it must be capital letters, and it's going to look for any letter from A to M. Okay, so that's another example of bracketing. Now, I want to show you another one, which is negation. And it works with the bracketing. So here we had A to M, and if I go ahead and I do this, it's going to be looking for everything but A through M. So if we look at this again, well, it's basically pulling up everything else but. So of course it's a long list. So if you look at this again right here, you can see that it's this upper caret inside the bracket that causes it to negate, which means do not use the A hyphen M. Now we're going to get into alteration, which is kind of like an OR statement. And so what I've done here is I'm writing out what I'm echoing, so I'm not going to be looking at those files anymore. It's going to echo these AAAs right here. And I'm saying grep, and what I'm using is this OR. So we'll either look for 3 A's or look for 3 B's. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give that a try. And when I enter it, nothing comes back. So it doesn't match on the AAA like it's supposed to. And the reason is because of this little line right here. And the book talks about this with the POSIX characters. So what we have to do is we have to either use egrep or put the E flag in there. So if I go ahead and do, I should say E option. So I put in the E option. Again, this is talked about in your book. And I run this again. Now it works just fine. Why? Because it's recognizing this as a meta character to use instead of just some sort of bar. Okay, or maybe it might even be, in this case, trying to interpret it as something else. But when we do the E, it's basically saying, oh, it's a meta character, it's going to work. And so if we do the same thing here, and we do BBB, because it's an OR statement, it's going to find that just as well. This is another example I want to show you where basically what we're doing is we're creating this range of things right here. So instead of just the letters like we have up here, we're doing a range. And we're saying it's going to start with BZ or GZ or zip. And now we are going to be looking at everything in our dir list files. And we're also using the E with the H, and the H just suppresses the file names. So if we go ahead and do that, you can see that we're doing BZ, and we got the GZ there. Here we got a bunch of zips. So this is working just fine. So this is another OR statement, or as it knows, alteration, is we have this, or this, or this, and it must start with that. So that's what this caret's doing in these brackets. Okay, in this example, we're looking at this little question mark symbol here, and that basically says match it 0 or 1 times right here. So we're saying, okay, we're going to be running this phone number. It looks like this, and we're going to be matching this 0 1 times here, and 0 or 1 times here. So we got the phone number there. We got that. We hit it. Works just fine. Now let's do the code again, and we're going to come and take those parentheses out of there and see if we get a match that time. So we're going to take those parentheses away, and we get the same thing. And the reason is because these were kind of optional. This little question mark is saying, hey, it can have this parentheses or not. It's 0 or 1 time for the match. And it can only be 1 time. Okay, so if we do, let's try another one. And we'll come over here. And let's just do 2. Now it didn't match. Why? Because there's 2 of them here. It's not 0 or 1. Okay. The other thing also to notice is the backslash before the parentheses. Because the parentheses mean something, this basically says, no, make it a literal character. So that's why they had to put that in here, and that's why it was also put in here. This next example, what we're doing is we're looking at this star right here. And what the star is saying is it's gonna it should have an uppercase letter to start with, okay, or it can have an upper and then a lowercase letter separated by a space. And so it can either be uppers or uppers and lowers. And then this is basically saying that it can match it 0 or more times. It doesn't matter. So if we run this, we get this works with the period. Of course, we have that period right here, so it has to end with a period. So let me just modify this a little bit and come here. And first I'll take away the T, or the capital T, and just do this works like that. And you can see it didn't work. Why? Because it's looking for that first upper. Okay, didn't work out. But what's neat about this is I can go with an uppercase T, and I can go with an uppercase W, something like that, and that is going to end up working just fine. So I go like that. There's this works. And then one last example is, of course, if I take the period away, and I do that, come back, it's going to fail, just like that. Okay, so this is just looking for 0 or many times. This example is very similar to the one we just saw, except in this one, we're looking for, with this plus right here, we're looking for it to match an element 1 or more times. So it has to match at least once or more. Okay, and so we have that little plus sign. If we run this right now, we get that working. We come back and we do something like this, put a non-alpha character in there, then it doesn't work. Okay, because it's looking for that space and it has to match another alpha character. It doesn't, so it basically doesn't match on anything. Okay, so that's the 1 or more times. And the last one right here, we're looking for a phone number match, but we're using these curly braces here. And what we're doing, or curly brackets, and what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we have a 3 here, so we're going to be looking for 0 through 9, the numbers 0 through 9, and they have to repeat 3 times. Now, it doesn't have to be the same number, like in this case, but they have to be a number that's going to repeat 3 times. And then the next one, after a space, it has to repeat 3 times. And the next one has to repeat 4 times. So it's a really easy way to do a phone number. Of course, if we do this one, it's going to match just fine. But let's go ahead and change this a little bit, and we'll just do that. So we're going to add 1 extra number to the last part. So this says 4 right here. Well, there's more than 4 numbers. We have 5 now. So we do that, no match. Let's do it again, though, and just for fun, let's go ahead and change that 4 to a 5, and there it matches again. Okay, so what the braces are doing is they're just basically, or the brackets, I'm sorry, the curly brackets are doing is they're saying it must match this many times. Now, if you look in the book, you can also do ranges of them that can do 2 to 3 times, and so you don't have to be limited to one number. You can actually have kind of a range of numbers. To summarize, we looked at some regular expression patterns. We looked at using just text, which is pretty much no characters, just text. We looked at using any character, which is a dot, and we realized that it was representing any one character. So if we had 2 dots, it would look at 2 characters, 3 dots, and so on. We looked at using anchors, and that the up caret was what we'd start with, and the dollar sign is what we need to end with, so we could actually combine just to one word. We looked at bracketing expressions, along with negation. So it allowed us to put a pattern, like an A, B, C, or an A through M, or something like that, and it would look at all the letters between A to M. We look at alteration, which was the pipe. It kind of looked like an OR statement. So we could do, like in our example, we had GZ, and then we had BZ, or whatever, and that was in front of zip. So if you remember those examples, we matched an element 0 or 1 time, and that was with the question mark, and that was working with the phone number example. And then matching an element 1 or more times, that was with the plus symbol. Okay, so we could do it 1 or we could do it more. And we looked at matching an element n number of times, where the n is a number and it's inside of curly brackets, and it basically says this is how many times we have to match that particular pattern. And we didn't see an example, but remember we can have 2 numbers in there, so we could have a range like a 3, 5 or something like that. So it would match either 3, 4, or 5.